Ready? All right, good deal. All right, it's at 4 o'clock, February 16th, 2021 is the continued meeting from the, I think that's right. Is it, it's today's the 23rd, I apologize. So today's 23rd, this is the continued meeting from the 16th of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Let's let's do the roll
Okay.
call.
Board Member Bishop,
Present.
Board Member Cook,
Present.
Board Member DeLauro,
Present.
Board Member Jones, absent, Board Member Robinson,
Here.
Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Here.
Chairman Simulescu.
Here. All right, order of business. The first order of business is consider approval of regular meeting minutes from November 3rd, 2020. It's been that long.
I was absent, so I probably shouldn't make a motion.
Okay. Shall review it. Motion to approve the minutes. Let's take the vote.
Okay. Board Member Bishop. Aye. Board Member Cook,
Aye.
Board Member DeLauro,
Aye.
Board Member Robinson, Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Simulescu.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Number 2, update on Carl Albert Park and Dixon Durant Park projects.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I am a lot better at 80 degrees than I am at 0.
Absolutely, I agree.
Amen.
Oh,
Real quick on the Carl Albert Park project. We had hoped to, if it hadn't been for the weather, to be kind of finished with the playground area that we've been doing at Carl Albert, and then also to do some more of the parking lot, but we hadn't been able to do a whole lot because of the weather. But I did want to share with you the fact that the small playground and the larger playground for the kids that we have in that fenced-in area, they are done. We still lack the multi-sport area. We have the flooring down on it, but we lack the goals and the netting that goes around it. So we've kept that closed because we've already drilled the holes in the ground where the poles go. So we don't want anybody in there and get a leg broke. But I'm kind of a visual guy, and I wanted to do some show and tell. What we did on that project, and I can kind of pass some of this around and just let you guys kind of look at it. The way this actually worked, when we took the base, we had asphalt, and then they built a concrete base over that. Then this 2-inch pad went down for fall protection. This padding is actually used car seats and stuff that they repurpose for fall protection. So that's put down, then this is a drain that goes right underneath your turf. And then your turf then goes right over the top of that, like so. And that's your actual fall protection as a whole. Then inside the turf, we use a silica sand. Sometimes you'll see, like on pro games and stuff, they'll use a little black rubber ball.
Little black balls, everybody sees.
Yeah. But we thought it would be better, the option was to use either that or the silica sand. We have the availability of the silica sand, and it cleans up a lot better than the little black rubber balls. So we went with the silica sand, so if you get a chance to go out there, even though they're not open for kids to play on yet, you can actually look and see. And it came out very nice, I think. Carissa, when are we due on the netting? Tomorrow? Netting and the poles?
Yes, the fencing will come in tomorrow for the netting. We're waiting on the PO to
Less
order
than-
the actual net to go around, and
Okay.
we'll get that ordered, and it should be in a week or two, so.
And we've also ordered 4 basketball goals and 2 soccer goals. What we're gonna do, that main multi-course area runs 90 feet long. we're gonna put a soccer goal on each end of that. And then it is 65 feet wide, so we're gonna put 4 basketball goals around on the edges. So that way it can be used for multiple sports at one time. Kids can play on it, you can have kids shooting baskets and some kicking a soccer ball at the same time, or you can kind of do 2 small full court versions of basketball or a full court version of soccer. So we think that'll let more people use it, and we've targeted it. And I've got with the parks people, and we're actually going to put if you've gone out there and looked, we have a vinyl coated chain link fence that we put around the 2 small playgrounds. We're also going to put that chain link fence between there and the dream court. That way, this is little kids over here. Big kids, you stay off of it, per se, okay? Because we don't want big kids dunking on 8-foot goals,
Right.
that sort of thing. So we want to make the goals more for little kids to shoot, and that area of it for little kids. So we just kind of wanted to let you know about that. We do have the lighting on out there at night. It lights it up very well if you've been out there. We're going to do a little more tweaking with that, probably add about 6 more heads. We're going to make the ones, we're going to refocus some of them to help around the parking areas and the track, and those will stay on all night. The ones on the playground will go out at 10 at night. Okay? If you've been by the Dixon Durant Park, on the tennis courts, they have new lighting on them as well. And they're on a timer as well, and they go out about 10 at night as well. Again, we've got some more tweaking to do. We're having trouble getting our tradespeople in to kind of help us finish some of that because of all the winter issues that's been going on and the need for electricians and everything. It is kind of crazy right now. But we're going to keep working on that. So we have one parking lot completely finished, and it's striped with parking spaces. Our street department is going to do the base work on those other parking lots and the drainage on it. But again, like I say, that we've not gotten any work between COVID. I think your street department is down 6.
They were, I think they're down 5 now, but yeah.
Yeah, they're down 6 personnel out of 13. So,
And then our jobs changed last week again, so
and I'm sorry?
ice and snow last week put us behind again.
Right. So everything is getting pushed back further than we want, but we're still going to continue to be diligent, knocking it out as we can. So, parks guys, we're down 3 in parks. 1 with an injury that's requiring surgery, and 2 that have quit. So we're down there as well. We still are going with the plan. We still are going to do what we said we were going to do. It's just unfortunately taking us longer than we had hoped to do that. When we do get that Carl Albert playground area completely finished, we'd like to do kind of a ribbon cutting and an opening. We think that'd be nice to do and let people know that it's available. So we'll kind of target, I'm thinking now sometime with it almost being the 1st of March, we're probably targeting the 1st to the middle part of April on that.
And
To be on the
we're still good with the grant and all that. We extended that, obviously.
The grant is done.
Okay.
We got everything we needed to get purchased on the grant by that December 31 deadline. We actually had a lady that handles grants from the Oklahoma Department of Parks come down and signed off on that.
So that's not a problem anymore, so that's good.
So we're thrilled to death to be past that part of it.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay. So that kind of gives you an update on Dixon Durant. We have fallen some trees out there on rain days when we couldn't do other things and when we're waiting on material. Dead trees or trees that were dying, we have taken to the ground. We have more to do. In Carlisle Park alone, I think we're gonna end up taking out about 20 trees that are in bad shape. So, and I think so far we've taken out probably 8 or so of the 20. So, that kind of gives you a little bit of an update. We want to trim up all the trees as well, so that the light that we're putting in will illuminate underneath those trees a little bit more, and it'll also help with the grass growing there. We're going to fill up some holes out in those play areas that have, over time, there's areas that have sunken in, or just from play, they've gone down lower. So, but that kind of gives you a quick update on that project there. If you'd like, I'll go ahead to number 3, which is on that.
Absolutely. Number 3.
Going to the handout that you have that we gave you. At the Durant Multisport Complex, we have noticed there's quite a few lights that are out there on the playing fields. Those lights that are on those playing fields are on 50 to 60-foot metal poles. It takes we don't have a piece of equipment that we can safely get to those to change the bulbs other than a fire truck. We have a 50-foot lift, but the offset that you have to get your boom up there, you're not getting up high enough to get to that. So we looked at the possibility of changing to and upgrading the lighting to LED. The purpose for that was the bulbs that we currently have are 1,500 watt bulbs. The bulbs that we would replace that are LED would be about 350 watts. So the cost savings on electricity would be dramatic on that. We could use the existing poles that are there now. I had gotten with Silo Schools. Kate McDonald, the superintendent there, recently had 2 of her ball fields, the softball and baseball, done. It cost Kate, and they had to buy the poles. They bought 80-foot poles. Cost Kate and them around $265,000 to do 2 fields. Okay. I went ahead and we got with the same company that she'd used, which is Qualight, who is a sister firm, or they're associated with Oklahoma LED, who did the light replacement on all of our buildings here. I had them go in and evaluate all of the complex. What they did was they made it to where, as you know, sometimes the college has played softball tournaments on our field at the Multisports Complex. So they went through and they upgraded the lighting on a computer program, and that's what you have here before you. And they also gave us a proposal of $1.2 million. This would raise the lighting to college level. The reason I went ahead and had them do that is I wanted to see what the top end cost would be. We can always go back and we can have them refigure that to get it down to what like a high school level would be, or for instance on the football field, and it's separate, it's on a separate page. That football field is never used for anybody other than like small kids. The only other thing, I think, Mike, you guys used it for lacrosse, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
This does not include adding lights to soccer.
It does not. We priced retooling what is there only. Okay? That way we're comparing an apple to an apple. If we get another company to bid on that, that is giving us a bid like we have now. Okay? Soccer we need to decide on how many of the fields we were going to light, what size those fields would be for sure,
And then we would then go back and get another price for that. Okay. But I wanted to look at what we had just now, because on the soccer fields, you're going to have to put in electrical lines. You're going to have to put in poles. On these, that infrastructure is already in place. You're just replacing those metal halide heads with LED heads.
Soccer doesn't play a lot.
Soccer does not. But the other thing, that is not out of the possibility though, Marty, because in our long range goal, we would like to get it to where those soccer, and you and I have worked on that independently, but at some point in time, we want to be able to host tournaments there for all sports. We feel like that would bring in additional revenue to help support that complex that we're missing out on dramatically right now. But again, we crawl before we walk, and so I had to have a starting place, so I wanted you to see what we were doing.
So the funding for these lights, where would it actually come from? Does it come from that bond that was passed for the sports complex a long time ago, or does it come from general revenue source, or where does it come from? 'Cause that's a lot of money there for.
That's a lot of money, but we wanted to see what the top of the line
Sure.
would be, and then we can always adjust back off of that. But
There's a couple sources you can pull it from, but the primary one needs to be bonded.
right, DCFA money, yes, correct.
What you got? 2 years, right? Till that's done.
3 more. I think it's 24 when it goes out. The advantage of the LED is that obviously the energy usage is dramatically less. The improvement in the lighting would be dramatic. The other advantage is they have a 25-year warranty. That way we don't have to have the equipment or put personnel up trying to change light bulbs.
So they'll come and change it if it burns out before 25 years.
The company Qualight, in this case.
Okay.
Okay.
What is our cost right now to replace a bulb that goes out?
I don't know. I'd have to get that for you.
That's a lot of light bulbs.
That's a lot of light bulbs. But the other thing we're looking at is you're going to have to tie up a piece of equipment. We're going to have to rent equipment and have personnel, and then our people really aren't. That's not their skill set. I don't want them in a 50, 75-foot bucket dangling out trying to put in a light bulb.
And you save a lot of electricity over that 25-year period.
That is correct.
Potentially to kind of.
That is correct. Right.
Is there an approximate dollar amount of those funds that are available other than this 1.2 that we're looking at?
I haven't got that far, Mike. I just wanted to go ahead and, while I had the opportunity,
Sure.
is to get us a base quote
Okay.
on doing it first class. I mean, this is top of the line.
Right.
So
Is there any current concerns over the lighting that's out there at the moment?
we have had complaints about the lighting not being safe. That is correct. If you are a softballer and you're at the college level, you are pitching from 43 feet and your base paths are 60 feet apart. Your third baseman is playing in at about 40 feet. So anything that comes off of a bat is like a rocket coming out of there. Same way on baseball, except your base paths are longer. Base paths are 90 feet. Your pitching rubber is 60. So again, though, if it's not lit well, the danger of something coming back and you not seeing it's not good in that way. We're going to have to either improve the lighting or we're going to have to replace what's there, or my thoughts were, let's look and at least see what the top notch is. And if we can do it for 25 years, even though it's an exorbitant amount of money, 25 years, if you depreciate it out over that period of time, it doesn't seem quite as bad when you're doing it that way. And I haven't had an opportunity yet. I'd like to pull the utility bills to see if the savings between 1,500, there's 265 1,500 watt light bulbs out there on those fields. And I'd like to pull the savings, the estimated savings from what 350 watt LED as opposed to a 1,500 watt metal halide would be, and see how that compares in dollar savings, but I hadn't got there. I'll
James,
I'll
does
just tell you.
this proposal add more lights than 200 that are there?
It does.
How
The way this is lit is again like college level.
You have roughly idea how many lights it adds?
I do not, I'm sorry, Steve, without counting that. I'm sorry, I hadn't had the time.
Oh, that's fine.
I apologize, brother.
Has there been any other ideas that have come forth as far as additional improvements out at the sports complex that have come your way?
Marty and I have actually been working on that as a sidebar. We would like to go to the north of the existing baseball and softball and football and add a combination of soccer, lacrosse type fields there, and I think we had 10 maybe, Marty.
We had 10 full-size soccer, but we also had another baseball hub and another softball hub too.
Right.
There's a lot of
Just-
land over there. We've
Just
got a very
flipping it
rough,
over.
like a very rough preliminary drawing. It's pretty well
Mhm.
to scale, but it's gonna take a lot of money to get there over the years. So we're just trying to see that future, see where we wanna be,
Sure.
and then try to figure out how to get there, you know?
Is there any access currently going across that ravine, going north, that drop off?
There is not currently, but we're working on that as a project. I don't know how much of that you're at liberty to discuss.
Well, I mean, it's a done deal. OG&E owns property that borders the city's sports complex there. And you know where they put those transmission lines across? They're gonna come in right there with an access road and tie it to their new substation. It's gonna be back off in the woods there.
Okay.
And so we're working with them to try to develop a plan to make that a secondary access for the complex instead of just an unimproved surface. I
Okay.
don't know how they're taking that yet, by the way. We're still negotiating. But at the very least, they're gonna have some areas that they're gonna level out for us that we can then utilize as a secondary access. And you can get down to the northeast corner, like towards CMC, but it's all in trails. I mean, there's no roadway. There's just trails that we use with our equipment.
I've driven that out in a Suburban and a Manhunt before, and you can drive it, but
Yeah.
it's not,
It's not
Ideal,
public use by any
you know.
We were, so Mike DeLauro and I, we were walking this probably maybe 2 months ago. We were just walking out there looking and seeing if we could have any kind of vision for a possible application for disc golf out in that section. That's why I was asking those questions. Is there any application that could be in some point, that area that's not developed currently, if that could be having walking trails through there that could be playable?
I mean, there's obviously a ton of space back there. I don't think we took into account disc golf in our plan.
Did not.
But the fear is, I mean, again, we had to create that at the lake too. And it's a lot of work. Time you drive it out and doze it out and pour cement out in those areas and everything else. I think that would probably be in the future, maybe we could consider it a possibility for sure. But I think maybe be good for this board to see your little drawing, and maybe at the next meeting, not tonight, but
Right.
of kind of what we had envisioned by taking simple measurements and kind of knowing the topography and where we could put kind of what, you know. There's some areas that can't be used. There's a creek that runs through it. There's a huge ravine they dug out that was going to be a lake someday.
Right, and we think we have a solution to that as well.
Yeah, we've got some ideas, but nothing's been, engineered yet, so.
And you're gonna share this with the sports complex board too, the lighting?
Not yet. You met before they have met.
Okay. Okay, it'll be interesting to see what their thoughts are.
Mhm.
I did have one other comment just specific to the lighting out at the sports complex. And I think one, vastly important piece that the sports complex lacks, and really our area lacks, is another turfed field. And again, I know at the moment it's only the university with a turf field, but so many sports would utilize an asset of that degree. And so obviously that's another large expense. That's something that would be massive. But when I look at other towns of equal size around the state of Oklahoma, there are more than one turf field in their community. And in fact, quite a few of those communities have it to where they are public. They're not on any type of university property. And so I know that the university stadium is technically, obviously tax dollars have paid for that. So I know that there is some allowances for other outside entities to go about renting it. But I think at the sports complex specifically, if there was another turf field, that all of a sudden opens the door for more, other events, other tournaments, soccer, football, et cetera, the flag football and stuff that's going on out there. I know if there's any bit of precipitation, all those things just go out the window. And so that's obviously something that at the moment is severely lacking in our community. So something that I feel we should consider alongside a project such as this one, where I know maybe there are some concerns with lighting, but it is technically still playable. Having a turf field, I think, is definitely something that, I think should be considered as well.
I think if we have looked at that as a long term. If we do turf initially, it'll be softball and baseball on the infields. The reason for that being there are more games occur on those fields than any field we have. If it does get any amount of rain, especially if you're a softball person, those are dirt infields. You get any rain, it's non-playable. So if we have a tournament that we have a bunch of people in and we get a half-inch of rain, we're out of business for that whole day usually. So we did explore that. Matter of fact, the gentleman who helped us install this, he goes all over the United States installing turf fields. He was leaving us and going to South Carolina and installing on a softball field in South Carolina. We did look at it. I also, Dwayne Meredith, superintendent at the Durant Public Schools, they talked about it as well. So I think Dwayne is looking for that as a future move as well. Again, I hate to say it, but it's got to be further down the list. We haven't done a good job, in my opinion, of keeping that complex up to the top level over the last few years. There are a lot of things that's going to have to be done out there. And a lot of them are going to be costly. But we do have a plan for it. It's just going to take, if you neglect for 10 years, it's going to take you 10 years to almost recover, So if you'll go out the next time you're out there, if you'll look at those parking lots are breaking down significantly. That's going to be a major expense that we're going to have to incur as well. This lighting, I think we've got to keep it safe, when playing night sports. That's got to be a priority to us as well, So while I like what you're saying, I'm afraid it'll have to come a little further down the list, unfortunately, than we would like.
Do we have the ability to put together a next plan or wish list and an idea on costs on these things? So
We're
that way
actually
we
already working on that.
Okay.
That's where this came from.
Okay. And then so
We're working on a master plan.
So that we're able to go ahead and say when the bond expires, we're able to already have the next plan ready to go for the next potential big expansion?
We would like to see it happen, some of what we've talked about, at least those soccer fields. We have the equipment to level dirt as a city. We can go out there and move dirt. We can sod. For creating soccer fields, additional soccer fields, we could probably do that on that north side, in-house, and not have to have that as a contract event, which would save us quite a bit of money. We're working on a master plan for all the parks, as we had told you before, and we're also working on a master plan for that park specifically. We have, if you've been to the Texoma Park in Denison, those are all turf infills. We feel like we need to get there fairly quick because of the fact if we're hosting a large tournament, number one, they're our competitor to get people to play. Their park's a lot nicer than ours if you've gone down there and looked.
And they can still make it to the casino.
And they can still make it to the casino. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But we want to compete for those larger tournaments here. And it's kind of difficult to schedule a tournament in Oklahoma in the springtime. Chances of you getting by without getting rained out are sometimes not so good. So, but those are kind of some of the goals. Again, we're working on the planning document now. Lighting, this lighting package, since we were looking at what it was going to cost us to replace lighting, replace bulbs, things of that nature, you know, and what all it was going to entail. And since we had just, as a city, contracted with Oklahoma LED to do all of our buildings, we thought it was an ideal opportunity to at least shoot it out there and say, what's it going to cost? Where are we at? You know, because that gives us something to use as a benchmark to work off of.
James, do the fees that we charge for teams to use our field for
Mhm.
tournaments, does that pretty much just cover the expense?
Doesn't even cover them.
It doesn't cover
Doesn't
even
even come close.
even the expense for the tournament.
Hmm.
So we're not getting enough revenue in all of that over time to build up any kind of.
No.
Right.
We supplement it every year.
We supplement it out of our general fund
Okay.
every year.
Is there a ballpark figure on what that number is?
I could look it up, but I don't remember. Do you? Is it
Think it's- I
400,000?
think it's about 500,000.
500,000. Okay.
That's what we supplement?
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Are we charging it?
No, sir.
Well, but and we don't have the facilities to charge what the nicer facilities have either, so there's a fine line to walk. I don't know what we charge, to be honest, that's their business, but
So if we had LED lights in the turf field, we could charge more, right?
you could. I mean, if you had better quality stuff, you could charge more.
And you would, the other thing is, there's a lot of upgrades that's got to be made out there. We have for years, our concession stands have not been in compliance with health department regulations. And when we realized that, we were not legally able to sell hot foods out of our concession stand because they did not meet the health department requirements. We're in the process of fixing that so that we can do that. Because right now, all you could buy would be a candy bar or a bag of chips or a pop, something like that. Because we legally could not sell hot foods. The people that work out there, in the future, they will all go through the health department's food handling licensing so that we know that they're in compliance as well. We had to put air conditioning and heating in those concession stands, things like that. We're having to close in the areas so that to keep insects and things of that nature out as well. So we're in the process of doing that. So that's where I was alluding to earlier. There's so many things that we haven't taken care of that we're now all of a sudden getting hit with, hey, we got to get this done, you know. Leagues, we lose money on leagues really bad because most of them, and in the past too, we have allowed people to bring their own food and stuff in, you know, so we're not vending it out like we should. The other thing about it is that, you know, when people are local, they'll come in, go to the ball game, then they'll go eat in town somewhere or something like that, you know. So, and the local people realize that there is a tax involved, that they're paying a quarter cent. What they do not realize is that quarter percent is for paying off the note on that property, and it is not for you to play free. So that is an issue. They
They
don't
are-
like paying fees.
They are paying a fee though, aren't they?
They are, but
It's not enough.
they are not
But
where they need to be
Last time I knew it was $10 a head a kid a season,
per season.
and that's been that way for 20 years.
A question specific to the master parks plan. Who is involved with developing that?
Carissa, myself, and Caleb at this point in time are in the initial stages of it. Also, Marty, have brought him in on that. We do not have the fees, we don't have enough money to hire a consultant to come in and do that for us. We are going to, though, then go to, and we've already been going to other parks to kind of see, and then we'll work that out.
Has there been
Um,
any public opinions or any public input into that park plan yet?
Not at this point. We're not that far in.
I mean, we've had, the city plan, we've had input and stuff like that. So, I mean, some of that stuff was probably in there, but nothing on this newer one, I don't think.
That's correct. And we're in the process, through the city, through our IT department, we're in the process of being able to air live broadcast over our local Vive network, and also on YouTube and things like that. And we think some of those meetings, then we'll air those and take comment from those. And we can also do just the typical Survey Monkey sort of things.
I'm assuming that, has there been consideration on the master trails plan? Is that something that y'all are going, or using as far as in this particular master parks plan?
On your master trails plan, it is part of the master's parks plan, but on that trails plan, for instance, ODOT came back the other day with an estimate on a bridge of $800,000 for a pedestrian walking bridge over Chuckwaw. We're not gonna spend $800,000 on a pedestrian walking bridge over Chuckwaw when the way our streets are, just to be honest. If we're gonna spend $800,000, we're gonna put it out here somewhere, you know? But we still want to keep that trail system alive, but we cannot justify that kind of money for a pedestrian 10-foot wide walk bridge. You know, that just can't be done. The money will only go so far, you know? So,
So we'll look to hear more about your plan in the near future, I would assume.
yes.
Later date, maybe you'll do us a presentation. What is timeline you think on this?
Given the COVID world we live in right now, probably the summer.
Any other questions about this particular number 3 issue before we move on to number 4?
And I'm also Caleb. Caleb is out
All right.
on a medical event today. So
Okay.
if there's anything in that report that you have questions about, I'll attempt to answer it for you.
We kind of talked about most of the important stuff already.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's on page 3, if anybody, just kind of read through those. It sounds like you read through a lot of these. Kind of talked about most of these things.
Did you say there was a page that Caleb's report was on here?
Yeah, it's right after the minutes.
It was on page 3. Right here.
Okay, it says November on it though.
Yeah.
Oh, it did say November.
Oh, it did say November. Is that different? Yeah, I guess maybe it's not. But it sounds like a lot of stuff you talked about just now, so.
Anyway, what I've given you is pretty well what we've been working
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Carissa, she is here today too, and we do have, one thing I can tell you is we've been working with a group, and we have a baseball tournament scheduled every week from March 1 through when?
Through May, we have 1 weekend left in June, I think, and then just 2 weekends left in July. So we start March 4th, and up until through July, pretty much, we're scheduled every weekend.
Are you gonna be utilizing other fields beside the complex for those?
We have baseball and softball completely almost filled. We've been talking with Durant Soccer Club, just had a meeting with them today, about getting their spring set up, so we'll be using those soccer fields. And then we have a football camp coming in, and they're talking about doing, maybe a soccer camp on the football field as well. So we're getting as many sports as we can right now. Baseball and softball are really hooking on people, but we're trying to get out there for.
I think part of my question was, are we utilizing other areas? Billy Miller, some of those, are you already booking stuff at those areas as well?
Not currently, but we have discussed it.
Okay.
We also
I
have
didn't know how
been
the fields
looking,
were right now.
and as far as another park, we have gone and looked at Slayton, if you're familiar with Slayton. That is a large field that is, could be used for adult softball. It's in pretty good shape, needs a little bit of fine tuning. And if you guys remember what's the little football program called, Marty?
Durant Youth Football, I think.
Yeah, youth football. They used to play right down below the softball field.
Yeah.
And that could be used for an adult field, for even lacrosse or anything. The actual field's in pretty decent shape. And over the summer into the fall, we had some mowers get in there and clean that up quite a bit more. There was a drainage ditch that was all grown up, and we got in there while it was not wet and cleaned that out, so it makes that a lot more usable. But that is part of our master plan, is to do not only that park, rehab it, but like Marty says, down at the Billy Miller,
Leonard
if you
Morgan.
yes, if you remember Billy Miller, in 2015 we had a flood come through and it wiped out that Billy Miller 3. It took the fence out, it took out some of the lights out of there, and we think we can rehab that. And then part of our master plan is, when I was the emergency management director, we also did a floodplain buyout to the area to the west between there and 9th Street. You cannot put any structures on that because that actually is in the floodplain. We use FEMA money to buy that out, but you can put soccer fields on it. And we think that'd be a really good place to have for like practice fields and for people. There are a lot of kids in that south side of of the town over there that could access those fields and do a lot of good down there with those. And I don't think it'd cost us a whole lot.
Would we-
Again,
I
it'll
thought-
cost us some dirt work.
Didn't we decide we could get 6 full-sized fields with
6, I
driving
believe.
lanes and
5
everything?
to 6.
Yeah.
Yes, full size over there.
Like real full-size, not the kind we use.
Yeah, 110 by
I don't remember, we did the
whatever it
measurements on
was.
it.
Yeah.
Is there, I vaguely remember lights being out at Slayton Park.
There are lights at Slayton on both of those fields. I tried the softball field; they are 100% working, which was good. Again, during a flooding event, we lost one pole that was closest to the creek on that football field. They have since replaced the pole, but there's no light heads on it. And I don't know what the electricity is like down there. But again, that's even if you got to lay a new line, it's just a trench that you lay and then go down there, to those. But
I know at Billy Miller 3, the only lights that work is on the third base line. We've tried, it's been about 6 months,
right,
but we tried to have some night practice out there. It was pretty difficult with only left field lights on, but or
correct,
third base lights, I should say. But at least there's some, there were some lights at least at Billy Miller 3.
correct.
So we've tried to utilize that, on the weekends, just in the outfield. And usually around this time of year, I think a lot of teams, there'll be a team in, on the actual, diamond, and then there'll be a team in the right field, team in center field, and then we're back behind in left field somewhere. So it's pretty utilized. It's just, obviously, it's without the fence, it's not really a playable field, but it's been a pretty active practice field for most of the baseball and softball.
Exactly. The unfortunate thing too is that we get a lot of vandalism down there, and I hate that. We've talked with Brenton Rucker, who's our IT director, about some cameras and trying to cut down on that. But man, that's a whole nother can of worms in itself, But I wish people would take pride in that neighborhood. Fortunately, the small field at Lloyd Plyler hasn't been damaged very much. Some, but not a lot. But I'd really like to see us improve that area down there. And again, a lot of people who don't have access to get out of that neighborhood, it's right there for them, So, anyway, I hope I've answered more questions than I've created. So,
All right.
it's a big job.
Any other
Big job.
questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
New business. Mike had some new business he wanted to address about Carl Albert disc golf pads.
Yeah, about this has been, an issue that we've been facing through erosion and through a few other just natural wear and tear. But about a year and a half ago or so, there was beginning to be some concerns over the T-pad concrete areas where you throw from out at Carl Albert Park. Last year, whenever we were coming forth with renaming the lake course after Craig, we had brought up some concerns about the T-pads and the concrete needing to be replaced. And so I know the city has had a lot on their plate, and so I know we've been in contact with Caleb in the Parks Department about it, but I know that there's quite a few other needs that are being tended to. But we had an event this past Sunday. We had 37 players out there. We had 2 rolled ankles, and it started to get to the point now where I know our leadership group within the club has said, we've got to really try and do something about it. But there are quite a few areas out there that are separated from the ground. So these T-pads are sitting somewhere from about 8 to 10 inches off of the ground. So that's a pretty big fall. So I know the club has fundraised quite a bit of money to be able to make those improvements, to actually have these concrete pads sit flush to the ground, which is how they're supposed to. And so I think I just wanted to make that concern, voice that concern to everyone, because we want the safety of that area to remain. And the last thing we want to try and do is have someone, bang up a knee, or all of a sudden there's a serious injury. So far, we've been fortunate that it's been just a minor situations, but there's one area in particular right near the new, it's hole 6, which is right next to the parking lot on the opposite side of the Dream Court. So I guess that'd be on the east side of the property. That's where there's about a 10-inch drop off, and that's probably the most dangerous area amongst the course. And so we just wanted to make the board aware that the club is prepared to financially cover those expenses. And we just want to be able to enhance that particular area. And so I just wanted to kind of voice that concern and make a recommendation just to our board that, we can correct those issues. Just obviously, the course does see quite a bit of activity. And not only within the walking paths out there, but also within the disc golf group. And so I just wanted to make a recommendation to the board on that regard, and maybe answer any particular questions. I think the main piece we want to try and do is we don't want to be intrusive to the remaining part of the park, since this is going to be an improvement on assets that are already out at the park. We just want to continue to be safe and offer a safe activity that's low impact for the community of Durant.
So I guess to clarify, is that the club is offering to pay for the improvements, but the club does not have the knowledge on how to install the improvements? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, correct. So we would be asking for the city's involvement to install them, just as they helped us out at the lake. So there would be some forms and some concrete that'd be poured, and some, just the man hours to be able to put that together. I know, as much as I'd like to try and do that, I know that there's some liability issues, and plus my knowledge of concrete is very minimal. I certainly don't mind rolling up the sleeves to try and help some of the city workers, but we do have the funds available to purchase the concrete and to make the improvements, and that we would basically put forth to cover all those expenses. So yes, to answer your question, it would be assistance with labor as well as installation.
Are you talking about replacing some concrete pads or repairing?
No, it'd be replacement. So the concrete pads that are out there, the dimensions of them, first of all, they all sit off the ground, which is not
About like this?
It'd be, yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, this green kind of area, and, you're up here and you're taking a step down, basically. The way the T-pads should have been poured initially were flush to the ground. And also the dimensions of the T-pads were not correct.
So you're talking about taking them all out?
Correct.
And repouring brand new ones?
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Yep, that is correct.
And I think we've talked about some of those as well, and with Mr. Dalton, it's really our goal is priority.
Right.
I mean, if something's dangerous, we can definitely take a look at that for a quick fix of some kind to try to keep it from being dangerous, for sure. But generally, those things, they're not hard to pour. It's just time and manpower.
Right.
But, one department's 5 guys down, the other one's 3, and there's a lot on their plates right now. This is probably not the right time to work on replacement of all of them. And I think it'd be fair to say, if you brought us a list, and you probably know it, of the most dangerous ones, we would definitely go out and take a look at that and try to make sure they aren't going to kill somebody. But in the meantime, I think a total replacement's going to take a little bit, don't you?
And,
That's not pushing it off, that's just.
Sure, sure.
No, we recognize the need,
Yeah.
but your need is in with other needs, and I'm sorry, I gotta take them all, and we gotta try to get them. I tell you one thing we might be able to do is use some topsoil and backfill up to those pads
That's
that
what I
are
was thinking, when you
existent,
said they were off the
now.
ground, maybe we could re-level them.
and maybe get you where you can, until we get to the summertime.
Yeah, I think that's the main piece, is we just, there's not necessarily like an immediate need per se, but the dimensions are equally as incorrect as
Sure.
being off the ground. So it's not something that we're kind of looking at as an immediate piece, but definitely something that we want to kind of bring forth to the city, because at this juncture of the year, there's not as much play as what we're
Right,
anticipating
right.
as it warms up. But definitely, we want that to be in the fold, so to speak, in the list of items, action items for Caleb, which I'm sure he's got a ton on his plate. So absolutely.
Yeah, we've got it. Just getting them all accomplished has been is difficult, but we do have it on the queue.
And I know, just kind of for everyone else's information or knowledge too, I know a lot of other areas and communities with similar issues, they've had to just do this in phases. So, we currently have 9 holes out there, and this might have to be one of those things where, hey, we could do the first 3, and then it might be another month, and then we'll get the next 3. So that's certainly something that we would be open to as well.
Okay. We'll definitely keep it there, Mike. It's
Sure.
not like that we're not willing to do it. It's
Sure.
just,
I mean, we've already talked about it, to be honest.
yeah, we just,
It's just not come out on top yet.
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, but we could possibly, I'm gonna have them filling, I know it's not correct to your play,
Right.
but we're gonna have them filling holes out there that are in that infield area with dirt anyway. We're gonna have them taking trees down and chopping some limbs and things like that. So we could do some backfilling around the existing pads if they're a danger to step off and fall.
Yeah, I know in that area, you know, and we don't have to get into the specifics here,
Uh-huh.
but there's definitely some concerns where, I mean, just over time, that's just naturally gonna happen in areas.
Yes, natural
so,
erosion.
um,
I think we could probably put in right now even some topsoil and maybe some winter rye would probably grow up until it gets hot in May and then it'll die out. So that's just a thought.
All right, anything else? All right, given that there's no other new business, I move to adjourn. Can I have a motion? Got one, second? All right,
Second,
let's take the roll.
Okay, Board Member Bishop,
Aye.
Board Member Cook,
Aye.
Board Member DeLauro,
aye.
Board Member Robinson, Vice Chairman Brittingham,
Aye.
Chairman Simulescu.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.